This is the Morning Fix. It is 12 minutes past 8 and we are having our first session of Trial Tuesdays today. This is with CMS Daly Inamdar advocates, and this morning we roped in Hani Khan and Julius Wako. Both of them are partners at the commercial corporate team at CMS Daly Inamdar advocates. And good morning, Hani. Good morning, Julius.
Good morning.
We're so happy to have you here, and today we're focusing mostly on family businesses. It's definitely a theme that resonates with the community of Radio 44. So let's just jump into it. Hani, maybe you can tell me what is the importance of structure when it comes to a family business?
Radhika, thank you so much for having me. I think before we go into that particular, me answering that question, structure is especially important in anything you're doing. It's all about planning, taking preemptive steps to safeguard the future of your business. So, when you ask me what is the importance of that structure, what we found is that most family businesses, they rush to trade, they rush to get into certain things, and there's more than one member of the family involved. But without having rules and regulations around what they're doing, you ultimately end up having conflicts when it comes to key decision making. What we've also found is that sometimes there's issues with succession when someone passes away in the family, and this hasn't been planned for early enough. So those are some of the reasons why we have structures in place, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about what types of structures are available.
Yeah, it sounds like sometimes you just get this idea for a family business and you just haphazardly start it, and then you end up in a little bit of a sticky situation. But Julius, maybe you can tell me about the types of structure that is available for family business, because a lot of people might not actually be aware that there should be a structure.
Well, there are various structures that can be employed to run a family business. The typical ones are, the sole proprietorship structure, the limited liability company structure, and the partnership structure. Now, whatever the business structure is, the document that actually governs the internal affairs of a company is called a constitutional document. So in the case of a limited liability company structure, we're talking about articles of association. If we're talking about partnership structure, we're talking about the partnership agreement or limited liability partnership agreements. So the kind of structures that are available for them.
Okay, there you go. You have got all your... If you have a family business, this is your chance to get free legal advice. Do you know how rare that is? Free legal advice, not even discounted. So just right now on Radio 44 at Radio 44 Kenya on social media, or you can drop us a text message on 0758 123 444. We'll be chatting with the CMS Daly Inamdar advocates all this morning during the hot takes. Up next, it's Roll It Gal Rishi Rich. I would like to formally apologize for playing a song that says Friday on basically what is a Monday, but I hope that got you in the mood to tackle this day. Welcome to the Morning Fix. Today is Trial Tuesdays. We are joined by Hani Khan and Julius Wako from CMS Daly Inamdar advocates, and we've been talking all about the family business. So I know we've chatted a little bit about the structure. So Hani, let me ask you, what is the ideal structure? What should family businesses be aiming for?
That's a good question, Radhika. And just to touch on what Julius said earlier on, it depends on what type of entity they set up initially. So if it's a limited company, a partnership, etc., you'll have a different type of structure governing what happens in that particular business. But what you need to be considering, and this is what we normally recommend to business owners, is to sit down with the professional advisors, make sure they've outlined what their objectives, both short-term and long-term, are. How many? It's actually a very subjective question, because you need to understand what the family is gearing towards. What are their long-term plans? How many people are in their business? Things like who are the experts, who bring the tools of the tools to the business, the skill sets, etc. And once you're able to bring that together, the lawyers and the professional advisors will then outline a process in which this all fits in. So in the event that there's, like I said earlier, an important decision to be made, there won't be conflict in the boardroom. And in terms of how are we going to pass this knowledge to the next generation, etc. How do we make one of our nephews the next CEO of this business? Surely there's got to be an appraisal mechanism in here. And we've seen a lot of successful businesses in Kenya now treating their family more and more like employees.
Yeah.
So it's not just this entitlement that you'll have younger members of the family automatically jumping up, and the business then happens to suffer as a result.
Okay, so that's a great explanation, but let me tell you, I can already hear an uncle out there saying, hey, I'm not going to go to a professional. I know what's best. I can figure this out. But Julius, could you tell us some of the challenges that they would face if they poorly structure their business?
Now, the chief challenges they will face is precisely the benefit of having in place proper governance documentation is concerned in the business. So, Hani has spoken about key decision making. Hani has spoken about dispute resolution mechanisms. Hani has spoken about succession planning. Now, if you don't address those, and those are just 3 out of a number that you can address, then those will be the issues that will arise and you will face going forward, and it will be obstacle for your business. So it's especially important to put that documentation in place in order that those challenges that we have identified are taken care of. That's on the governance side. On the organizational side, again, and as alluded to it, is that for your business to operate optimally, now we're talking here about operations. Now it would be good to have in place an organizational structure, right? Roles defined, who's accountable to who, for what, etc. It makes for clarity, consistency, and basically a more optimal way of running your business, which of course you have to get your returns from.
Exactly, and you need to prep for these things in advance before the problems arise.
Absolutely.
So your business might be doing fine for now, but you should be looking into how to structure it. If you have any questions, again, free legal advice here, 0758-123-444. This is Trial Tuesdays on The Morning Fix. Get texting or follow us on social media at Radio 44 Kenya. Up next, Sonu Nigam, Ishq Kamina. Chare Tere Gurundawa playing for you on The Morning Fix. This is Trial Tuesdays, our newest feature in partnership with CMS Daly Inamdar Advocates. And this morning we've been talking all about family business and how important it is to have some structure in that business just in case something goes wrong. You need some clarity on the issues. And of course, we had to bring in 2 experts into the studio. That's Hani Khan and Julius Wako, both partners in the commercial corporate department at CMS Daly Inamdar. And Hani, maybe we can go to you. And now we know the importance of structure. How do we establish it? What's the process like?
Right. So the first step would be the moment you register your business in whatever form of entity we've just touched on, the partnerships, etc. The moment you register your business, it has automatically got a form of structure. And that structure is derived from local legislation. For example, the Companies Act, which is heavily drawn from the UK Companies Act of 2006. This is the Kenyan one. That basically is your platform of your structure for your business in terms of what directors can do, for example, how shares transferred, what are their fiduciary duties. This is back to the directors again. And then you can bolster on, well, the legislation exists, and then you have what's known as your memorandum and articles of association, which Julius was talking about earlier. Now, they set out at a very high level how the company is governed. But the reason why we keep saying is you need more structure is you can go a step further and prepare a document known as a shareholders agreement in the context of a private limited company. That will specifically outline different duties, that will specifically deal with what happens when one member of the family wants to transfer, say for example, his shares to someone outside of the family. So those are known as, for example, preemption rights. Say Julius and I are cousins and we're running a family business, and Julius decides he wants to leave the business. I have the right to take his shares back on at a specific price, rather than him giving up the business and selling them to, say, Radhika. So that's why you have the shareholders agreement. That's how you establish structure. But to answer your question, in summary, you got to, like we keep saying, you got to sit down and understand what your long-term vision is, your short-term vision is, document that, and we're not just saying this because we're lawyers in your studio and we're trying to generate business. Ultimately, go to the professionals, sit down with the lawyers and say to them, this is what we're trying to achieve. we're not too sure. A lot of people don't even understand what's in the memorandum and articles of association. You'll be surprised the amount of times a client comes in and says, sorry, what's that?
Jargon, right?
No, and it's fair enough, because they're not legal professionals. They're professionals in their specific trade. So sit down with the professional, sit down with your financial advisor, put a business model together, sit down with your lawyers, talk about what your goals are, and then bring those together in a document, so that 5 years down the line, when there's something important on the table, you can refer to your rule book, if you like, and see what it says about that particular issue you're having.
So you might actually invest time and money now to set up the shareholders agreement and all the memorandums, but in the long run you might actually save money because you're not fighting about it. It's very clear. So do you think it's also just a good long-term strategy to avoid mishaps?
Radhika, that's spot on. And the listeners out there, if all of you don't know, she has a legal background, so she's actually schooling us here.
Oh, absolutely not.
No, you're absolutely right. And I say this to a lot of clients time and time again. They'll sit down with a lawyer, and the first thing is fear, legal fees, right? But cheap is expensive. If you don't invest in your business at the very early stages, you end up paying for it in the long run in some form or the other. So yes, to answer your question, prepare as early as possible, and you'll find that it's not a tangible saving, you can't count it, but you may end up saving millions of shillings 10 years down the line when you have to make a crucial decision or make a crucial change in the structure.
There you go. If that's not incentive, I don't know what is. Julius will be coming back to you and talking about the mistakes shortly, but I want to remind you, if you have any questions, please do message us 0758 123 444. This is Radio 44's Trial Tuesdays. It is Trial Tuesdays, and we're joined with Julia Swako and Hani Khan of CMS Daly Inamdar Advocates, and we've been talking all about family business and structure when it comes to organizing how the business works. So Julius, maybe I can start with you. Could you tell us some of the common mistakes family businesses make when they set up their structure?
Well, essentially, Hani alluded to it. Essentially, people or investors or people who start a business need to invest time and money in trying to get the establishment off the ground, and they need to actually seek professional advice as needs be. There is a temptation, because of the speed of business is fast. Returns. Transaction all is going on.
Yeah.
So there is that temptation really to just get up and going. We will solve it later. That's a common mistake we had. And then there's a particular business environment that sort of encourages it. Nowadays, you can set up any of these through eCitizen.
Yeah.
You'll go in, and what you get from that is basically the minimum local legislation protections that are afforded to the public. What you want to address is the bespoke aspect of your particular operation, and you need to address that. And that it needs you to focus some attention on in order to get it right in the first place. So invest time and money, and be a bit patient. I know business is fast, but be a bit patient.
Yeah.
And once you get that right, in the long term, it's always good. You'll understand how to protect the asset. You'll understand the tax benefits of this structure or the other structure. You'll understand the continuity aspect of your business in terms of succession planning. You'll understand, access to capital from various funds that are all over Kenya. Kenya is quite the headquarters of the PE.
Yeah.
And private equity will always follow where there is good structure, where they can invest in and out. So it's very important to invest time and money at the very foundations, because you get the foundation wrong, it's an axiom.
That's very important, actually, the foundation.
Yeah.
And you're right to say that you do get minimum protection, but why would you stop at that? You should go the extra mile and see what's the best route for your business. Exactly. I think one of the problems that we see a lot in the community is when there's a leader of the family business and they happen to pass away, or any member of the family business, they pass away. And sometimes there's a legal conflict, especially between siblings. So how do you avoid this legal conflict? Maybe we can go to Hani, then Julius.
Yes.
Yeah, no, thanks, Radhika. It's a sensitive question. A lot of families shy away from this question because no one wants to talk about death, especially when you're, involved in a family business. But it is extremely crucial to address this issue as soon as possible, because if you have that person, the key person, passing away at some stage, the business could essentially collapse.
Yeah.
And I've been advising in this space for plus 10 years, Julius a bit longer, without giving away our ages. And what I found is I've seen, great businesses, come into this situation, and there's, like you said, the children now have a conflict. Someone's passed away. There's no document, there's no will, there's no shareholders agreement which talks about where this person's shares are going to go. So all of a sudden you find that we're going to court, there's injunctions, etc. The business is suddenly suffering. And, in Kenya, these things can take a long time. You could be stuck in court for a very long time. And, when there's injunctions put in place which stop you from making certain decisions, the business is also restricted. And we found in about 80% of those cases, these businesses have eventually been dissolved because they just couldn't continue. So it's something that's very important. I know it's a sensitive topic, but I would urge all the listeners out there to think about it, to plan for succession, and tell the family who's going to take this baton over, when it comes to that particular juncture. Sit down with your lawyers. If you think it's too sensitive, put it down in a will, in a shareholders agreement, and have that discussion with your business, and plow the way forward.
An open discussion just to make sure that it is smooth flowing. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Julius and Hani. Again, if you missed this interview with CMS Daly Inamdar, it will be on our YouTube channel at Radio 44 Kenya in a couple of hours. So keep your eyes peeled. Again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an excellent start to Trial Tuesdays.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Radhika. We appreciate everything.
All right, let's take a look what's happening on the roads in Nairobi.
Traffic update. Your ETA on Radio 44.
All right, on Thika Superhighway